To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much.
I hereby call the order of the July 2016 public hearing of the City of Prescott's Board of Adjustment. The board members present this morning are, to my far left, Stephen Silvernail, Johnny Forker. To my immediate right is George Wyatt, Raymond Everett, and a new member, Tony Teeters. Thank you for volunteering, Tony. My name is James DiRenzo, and I am the chair. This is an open public hearing and is being taped, recorded, and videotaped by the city. The proceedings are being televised by representatives of the public media, the public, local cable, and/or radio stations, and may also be rebroadcasted. The number of board members present is 6 today. It will require 4 for the majority vote. All parties wishing to be heard on this issue are required to raise their hand and be recognized by the chair prior to speaking. Speakers will be expected to state their name and address for the record so that we may know who is speaking and be able to contact them at a later date if necessary. Please turn off all cell phones or electronic devices. Also, by the way, please sign the attendance roster, which is located by the door. Let me introduce the board this morning. To my far left, we have Stephen Silvernail. To my immediate left is Johnny Forker. To my immediate right is George Wyatt, Raymond Everett, and Tony Teeters, our new member. And my name is James DiRenzo. The first item on the agenda this morning would be the approval of the April 21st, 2016 meeting minutes. Are there any changes, revisions, and corrections to these minutes?
I move for the approval of the minutes as provided to us of the April 21st, 2016 meeting.
We have a initial motion and a second. All in favor? Raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. The first item on the agenda this morning is conditional use permit number 16-001, and Frank Hall will be our presenter this morning. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. This application is for a conditional use permit 16-001 for an RV storage park. The property is zoned business general, which requires the conditional use approval. The RV storage park location is here on Willow Lake Road, just before the roundabout with State Road 89, Highway 89. I think most people are familiar with this location in the sense that it has sat like it is, with curb and gutter, looking like a project was going to go in there for some time. The actual site was annexed into the city of Prescott in 1998. In 2008, there was a preliminary plat approval for a project known as Granite Dells Plaza or Twin Lakes Mini Mall, but it never came to fruition. It just never happened for different reasons. Since 1998, including that little mini mall project, there's been at least 7 different projects proposed for this site when I looked through the computer's databases on all the different projects. Since I've been here, there have been several mini storage discussions, pre-application conferences, and just nothing has ever really gone to permitting. However, this application is a little bit unique in the sense that the applicant is proposing the RV storage park for about 66 units, give or take. When it finally develops, we'll see how many it's going to be, but as a condominium project where somebody who owns an RV or a different type of vehicles or just for storage, they could actually purchase one of the facilities rather than renting them. The unique nature of the site, it's composed of 3 parcels, a smaller parcel to the north, the main body parcel here in the middle, and a smaller parcel separated by a county alley to the west. The property in gray over here on the left and to the north is actually county-owned county land, county subdivision, residential subdivision, with an alley between the main storage yard components. This alley has actually been filled in when they did the development. Whoever did the development in the past put a retaining wall right up against the backyards of these homes and filled the alley in with dirt. So it's not even a usable alley. And I want to talk about that in a minute. Different concern. I met with one of the residents out there, and they wanted me to share some information with you about that. This parcel on the left would be where the office is for the condo units or rental units if they don't all condo out. Some office parking and off-site parking for the units, storage units that meets the land development code. And then, of course, the storage units themselves. The parcels would be joined together through a replat process to make it one large parcel instead of having those three separate parcels. Lighting. Let's see, let me go over here a little bit and see a little bit of how they plan the storage units to appear. They'll be together, of course, attached with landscaping around the property. Each unit will have its own bay door. One thing that is appreciated with the City of Prescott for our dark sky code is lighting. The on-site lighting is, at this point anyway, is only recommended to be these wall sconces or wall lights, no light poles that would affect our dark sky code and Article 6 of our land development code. I'll put this map back up. I want to talk about three things, and then the applicant is here in the audience, and I'll be available to answer any questions. The main portion of the site where the majority of the condo units are going, all of the condo units are going, do abut the county property, county homes, right along the western perimeter and a little bit on the northern perimeter. One of the things staff would be asking in your motion, if you're inclined to approve the conditional use permit, is that the applicant provide additional landscaping and screening along that perimeter for what we call typically in our land development code residential protection standards, a buffering between residential uses and commercial uses. Condo storage yards are very nice neighbors. You don't have people there 24 hours a day. You don't have commercial development that requires cars driving in all day long. So it's going to be kind of a nice neighbor to have as far as if you're going to have a commercial development near you. Sometimes these type of things are actually some of your better neighbors. But just to have that residential protection, landscaping, and screening. The other thing that I'd like to mention is out in front on site, off the property, in the county right-of-way, right along Willow Lake Road, the exhibit you see before you now shows a bunch of landscaping and the existing sidewalk that's there, or even a proposed little trail. We'd like to get on the record that any type of development activity that occurs out in front for landscaping or sidewalk or trail development be coordinated with the Department of Public Works and the Circle Trail folks. Simply that this is an extension of the Circle Trail, and the landscaping is great and all, and it is off-site. It's in the county, city right-of-way, but we would like to have that coordination, have that known on the record that the applicant would coordinate with our Department of Public Works and the trail folks to make sure that that design will work for the future extension of the Circle Trail across over to the Watson Lake and Willow Lake. It was just a request that came in. The other thing is the community. I had many calls from neighbors in the county. They would like to, just for the record, and it doesn't need to be part of the motion or anything, but Yavapai County Public Works and the neighbors wanted to make sure that they had an opportunity to talk with the developer for this project because of the condition of that alley, that it's not a functional alley, that's filled in with dirt. And this entrance off of Willow Lake Road will be using part of the county right-of-way to get to the property. So that, just so on the record that the applicant knows, they have to coordinate with Yavapai County Public Works and, as a courtesy, the county residents that are contiguous to the project. With that, if you have any questions, I certainly am here to answer them, and the applicant is here as well.
Do we have any questions for staff on the board?
I have staff. The landscaping that does not show on the drawing between that and the residential.
Yes, sir.
Will be that on the county land or on the private land of the property owner?
It would be on the private property.
On the private,
yes.
So that no man's land will still exist, so to speak.
That will, whether that alley stays a no man's land, an unusable alley, could be part of that dialogue between Yavapai County Public Works, the developer, and the residents. Some of the residents actually want that alley to be functional at some point, but that's not an issue for this developer. But it's a courtesy conversation between the Public Works Department and the county and the neighbors.
Should the motion include in it that there will be landscaping between the residential and the project? It's not in the...
I did have some language in the motion, suggested motion, if you're inclined to approve it, that did make a mention of additional residential protection standards along that. It's in your sample motion.
Okay, as long as it's there.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions for staff on the board? Is the applicant or the applicant's representative here this morning and would like to add to the application?
Good morning. Bill Watson, 3300 North Tova Trail, Prescott. I just wanted to enter into a little conversation on that alley. It is anywhere from 6 inches to probably 3 foot above the rear yards of those houses to the along our west boundary there. We wouldn't have any objection to doing some landscaping in that area if needed. The alley ends at our far northwest corner of the property. Beyond that point, there is a large, it's a drainage that transfers water from Watson Lake to Willow Lake, and that's below our property. And it runs out at that corner and becomes basically a open waterway from there out to the lake. If you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Are there any questions for the applicant from the board? Do we have anyone in the audience who would like to make a comment on this particular application? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do I hear a motion for this application? Call for the vote. I hear the motion first.
Yeah, I think we would have a motion.
Well,
I don't have a sample motion in front of me, however, I would move that we would approve the conditional.
so would you like to read the
Yes, why
yeah,
not?
okay.
I would recommend, or I would move that we would approve the conditional use permit, CUP 16-001, with the condition that additional perimeter landscaping be added along the property lines to the north and west adjacent to nearby single-family residences.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other further discussion?
Definition of additional landscaping, that's a very vague term. What exactly have you in mind?
I don't have any in mind, to tell you the truth. I particularly don't care whether it's there or not. The elevation of the property is such that I think it is almost redundant to what is currently existing. If you look at the aerial photograph, there's already vegetation in there. It clearly doesn't run the length of the west border. However, again, I think the elevation of the property really just kind of makes it a redundancy. But I also think that it is not a bad thing to put in. So, in terms of exactly what I have in mind, absolutely nothing.
I think that the applicant will probably present a plan before he puts one shrub in.
Correct.
Which means that the city has an opportunity to approve his plan. So the word additional could mean whatever the city thinks is appropriate. Is that not, Frank?
Very close. The building permit application that would come in with this would include a site plan. In addition to the site plan, either on it or a separate sheet would include a lighting plan and a landscaping plan. The landscaping plan would have specific species and types and quantities. Staff will review it for consistency with Article 6 of the Land Development Code. We have actual section that says residential protection standards, and there's actually a very clear quantity, height, thickness, opaqueness of landscaping. Doesn't always have to be live plants. It can be a combination of wall, rock, decorative boulders, and landscaping material, plant material. And it's based on the building depth, building height, proximity to other things. So there's actually a formula that we use to review it. So yes, it would be specifically reviewed for compliance with the Land Development Code.
And that was my point. Additional is a very open, vague term, but I know what we have on the Land Development Code, and that will be followed.
Yes, sir.
Are there any other questions? If not, I call for the vote. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, please raise your hand and say no. The motion's carried. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Before we move on to the next item, I was a little remiss by not introducing some of the members of the city staff here and also councilmen. We have Councilman Greg Lazelle present this morning. We have George Worley present this morning. And we have Tom Geis present this morning. And we have Matt Petracki from legal. Did I miss anyone?
Actually, you don't know him yet. We have a planning intern with us in the planning department. Nate?
Nate?
Nate, so he's here.
Welcome, Nate.
It's good to have him on staff, so he's working with us closely every day.
Okay.
And Darla, did you mention
Oh,
Darla?
I'm sorry. Oh, George from P&Z, where are you? Oh, very good, George. Thank you very much for attending.
And of course, the Darla Eastman, we can't forget.
Oh, yes. I always do that. Our very competent secretary and assistant, Darla Eastman, to our left. Now, we have someone new from legal right here. Is that?
It's the morning of interns and externs. This is Marion Scott. She's an extern from Arizona Summit Law School with us this summer. She's just about wrapping up her tenure with the city and getting ready to go back to school.
Mary, it's Mary?
Marion.
Oh, Miriam. Very good. Thank you for attending this morning. The next item on the agenda is a reconsideration of variance 16-003, which was discussed back in April 2016. And the only individual who can comment on that would be George Wyatt.
I move to move this to a future agenda for complete review by the board, probably the August meeting.
Okay. Is there any, we have no discussion on this issue, by the way. It's just the fact that we have one individual who has decided to move this agenda item to the August meeting. At that time, will be full discussion on this revisit of this particular variance item. Is that okay, Matt? How do we handle that on?
You have time to do public. We're not going to do. No, yeah, that's fine. The August date will be fine. So Mr. Wyant is, I believe, just made a motion to reconsider.
Yeah. Does it require us to have a second?
It does. It requires a second and a,
Okay, fine. So I'm looking for a second on Mr. Wyant's.
Second.
We have a initial and second. Any further discussion from the board? I'm sorry, we can't do that. We have a initial and a second. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye. Aye. All opposed, please raise your hand and say no.
Got one.
We have one no, so the motion carries 5-1.
Mean man. What a mean man.
Any review items? Frank?
No, sir, but just for that August agenda, we'll have 2 items as of right now, the one you just passed to forward, and another conditional use permit for a RV park.
Okay, great. Is there anything for the good of the order? Anything? If not, the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
George, before you leave,